for the love, so now I'm doing what I want.
I did it for the love of the shit.
Doing it for the love, so now I'm doing what I want.
I did it for the love of the shit.
Hip hop and rap, yeah, that's where my heart's at. Doing it for the love.
What is up, everybody? Tony Cutillo here, Fox Sports The Gambler, Sunday mornings, and we are back. Let me just tell you something. I said this the other day, if you weren't tuning in, did a little basketball talk. Try new things here. It really is. It's something fun. I really enjoyed our Sunday morning chats together, and I want to start it up again. And I know it's not football season, but what I can say is fantasy talk is relevant every single day. I've been really turning up the basketball talk here. It's been fun. It's been trying. I can tell you that basketball is not easy. Okay, but what is better than Sunday morning and talking fantasy? What is better? So this is my whole agenda that I have planned every single week. So I want to. Sorry for a second here. I'm trying to share everything at the same time. What I want to do is, my goal is to go over the fantasy landscape from the weekend before. See what happened. Talk about some injuries. Talk about some interesting performances, things that we need to look forward toward this year, the trends, what's going on, certain player matchups that we want to look at. And then it is Sunday. So we could talk right now, not this second, but there's a 9-game slate for us on a Sunday. What's great about it is it doesn't start till 7 o'clock. And that's the good thing about basketball. Most likely they don't start till late afternoon tip-offs. As we get closer to the playoffs, you'll get those Sunday afternoon games. But for right now, for this purpose, we're talking a 7 o'clock start tonight with San Antonio and Charlotte. So we will get into that. But just so you know, I'm trying some new things here. So check out the layout. Was up a little late last night, trying to get this whole thing together. Really happy the way it turned out, to be honest with you. It was trying. Took me to about 3 a.m. But I want to come up with a name. So we're going to call this the DFS Blend. Because let's face it, this is what I do on a Sunday morning. I get up, I grab a cup of coffee, and I'm ready to go. And that's what we always do. And this is what I want to do for us here specifically. I want to go live every Sunday morning, get us going in the right direction, and helping you out with your fantasy teams. Now, last night was a very telling sign. And this kind of like, if you look on the left, you see DFS Week in Review, Brooklyn Disappointment. It kind of falls in line with it too. And the reason why I have it called Brooklyn Disappointment is because the biggest thing is you have 3 guys on that team, and we talked about this all the time. We talked about, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who was going to get the ball more, who was going to be the big-time scorer, who could you lean on? And last night, what happened is you had 3 guys that had a really good game and were very balanced. And let me just tell you, Andre checking in says, no days off. Andre, you know that, buddy. Hard work. We're going in the morning. Then me, you, and Al are going at night. It's never stops here, but that's okay. It's all good. It's fun. I love it. I love the Sunday morning. Here, let me just tell you something real fast. All right, listen, the Sunday morning slot for me is beautiful. Okay, I love it. Me and Sean Briggs talked about it. I said, man, he's like, what time you looking at going? I said 9 a.m. I said I like the 9 a.m. slot because, quite honestly, I like to wake up around 7:30 or 8. You get the dogs out. I got my cup of coffee right here. And I'm talking fantasy for the first hour. And then I get the whole day to, kind of analyze everything. We can update things just like a football day. So it's one of my favorite times to talk. It sounds crazy, but early in the mornings at this time, 100% perfect. But yeah, Andre, no days off. But let's look into Brooklyn. Last night you had Harden, Durant, and Irving have all good games. I mean, Harden was ridiculous with 16 plus assists. It was unbelievable. But my thing is, going forward from a DFS angle, can you trust any one of those guys now to be the actual guy? I'll tell you what, I'm a little concerned just watching that game now because every single one of these guys you're paying off for points. Absolutely. And, it's going to be a game like this every now and then. And if you get that, you're going to be in trouble. And the reason why I say that is because if you're going to spend $11,000 on guys like James Harden or Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, you better get 50 to 60 point potential. And you can't get production of 30 points across the board. Now, that's great for Steve Nash and the Brooklyn Nets and for their winning their winning direction and winning formula going forward. But that's not good for us as DFS players, right? We don't want to see that. We want to see a guy stand out every now and then, or at least two guys, but you have three. This is one of the major issues. So it's something we need to monitor. That's all. It's something we need to monitor, and we have to see how it's going to be going forward. It started out like it was going to be the Kyrie show. Okay, we did see that. James Harden looks like he's zoned in on being an assist guy. And if you watched the game last night, and you actually watch it from beginning to end, James Harden came on in the fourth quarter when it come to score, and he hit about 3 threes like it was in about 30 seconds. It was typical James Harden, but he was looking to dish the rock. He was dishing out dimes all game long. Jeff Green was the big recipient of James Harden, and there was plenty of times where I thought he got more excited over throwing that great pass than actually hitting a shot. Now, here's the thing. This coincides in Philadelphia with the Ben Simmons talk, because the first thing we've always said about Ben Simmons is he doesn't shoot the ball. He's always looking to pass. And that is exactly kind of what James Harden was doing. But here's the thing. James Harden can throw the rock up whenever he wants, right? So, listen, I'm not trying to get anybody upset by me right now. We'll talk about that tonight on Half Court Heat. But for a DFS standpoint, I'm just saying I am a little concerned when it comes to the Brooklyn 3. So, on top of that, one thing I want to look at is the Joel Embiid versus Nikola Jokic comparison. Both of these guys, big guys. It's funny. I was watching the Phoenix game, and I heard I heard Mark Zumoff talk about the return of the big guy in the NBA. And I started thinking, like, wow, we were just on these shows talking about how today's NBA has changed. And we thought about, can we win with big guys? Can we win with a big? Remember, we talked about that for so long, especially in Philadelphia, because of Joel Embiid. And now it looks like the big guy's back. I mean, you look around the league, and not just Embiid and Jokic. You look at guys like, even though he's injured, Christian Wood, who's just been phenomenal. Miles Turner, who's putting in performance after performance. Rudy Gobert, another very, very, very good guy in the middle. There's so many different big guys in the middle that are starting to creep up. So it's something to be consider. But when you talk about Joel and Nikolai, two guys at MVP consideration, one of these guys, the reason why I brought this comparison up was for DFS purposes, and say, when you get to your center position and looking at these two guys, who do you go first with? Do you pay for Jokic or do you pay for Embiid? And I'll be honest with you, as this goes on, I'm leaning towards Jokic. I think Jokic gives you a little more than Joel. Now, here's the only reason why, and this sounds crazy, but I think Philadelphia is more inclined, I talked about this before, to rest Joel Embiid as the games go on. And I don't mean having days off. What I mean is during the game, more Dwight Howard, right? You're going to see more Dwight Howard towards the stretch run to get Joel Embiid some work, to get him some work and Joel Embiid some rest. That's how basically low management's going to happen for Doc Rivers during the game. And I think that's something that Jokic really doesn't have to worry about. Malone's not going to do that with Jokic. Jokic plays all the time. And one thing about Jokic, he dishes out the assists more than Embiid. So that's one of the things you have to look at with Jokic. If you look at over, he's going to be in around between 10-5 and 11-1. This is what him and Embiid are going to give you. So they're around the same value. But you just have to look at the assist factor. I mean, just over the last 4, 9, 12, 6, and 12, he's a triple-double machine when he wants to be. I mean, last night, or 2 nights ago, I should say, listen, he had 22 points, 13 boards, and 9 assists. It's very close to being a triple-double, one dime off. and he gives you 58. Right? The game before that is 42, then he's 62. Then the game before that he's 88. Listen, Joel Embiid, I love him. He is tremendous, but Joel Embiid is not going to give you an 80-plus point game. It's just not going to happen, only because he doesn't dish the rock like Jokic. So Embiid may very well give you 31 and 13, but he's not going to give you 31, 13, and 10. And that's the difference. So for me, it's Jokic all day from a DFS standpoint. He's a guy I'm looking at. Now, if you look at tonight, I think Jokic could most likely be the guy you look at from the center position. Now, you have Giannis, who going up against OKC. He's 10-9. Jokic is 10 is 10-9. Jokic is 10-7. So, and then the top three, you go to Vucevic. Vucevic is 9-8, and Vucevic, that's an intriguing matchup because we're going to break these games down in a little bit. But you look at tonight, and you always look at the slates, especially when you have 7, 8 plus. Those 9, 10, or 11 game slates. You always have 2 games at least that are high scoring games. Like last night, we already knew the Golden State and Brooklyn game was going to be a high scoring affair. Now we didn't know it's going to be balanced scoring between the Kyrie and KD and James, but at the same time, we knew that was going to be a big number. It did hit the over. So when we look at these kind of games like Orlando and Phoenix, I think this is another game that, again, is going to have a lot of points scored. You look at guys like Vucevic, who has been unbelievable. Over the last 10, he's averaging 58. Okay, I don't mean over the last 10 days. So the last 5 games, he's averaging 58. That is unbelievable. He's getting you double-digit rebounds. He's been hitting the over prop on rebounds. If you're a betting person and you're looking at props, his props are usually 12 and a half. He or 10 and a half to 11 and a half. He's hitting over 12 all day, every day. So it's almost a guaranteed over bet when you talk about Nikolai Vucevic. Now, if his overall point total, you're talking about a guy last year at 65. Okay, last 10 days, he's averaging 58, and that's 9,800. So here's where you have to look at the numbers, and I say this all the time. Look at what the numbers are telling you. Do not reach, right? That's one thing you have to do. You do not reach, and the reason why I say that is, do you want to pay 10-9 for Giannis, or do you want to pay 9-8 for Nikolai? Now, listen, the whole point of that is to save $2,000, right? If you save $2,000, that could be the absolute difference of you getting a mid-tier to a high-tier guy as your forward or your guard. So that's what you have to look at. So again, I talked about this on the Fantasy Firebox on Wednesday. Me and Dan Green, we had Ann Shore on there, a professional handicapper. She was amazing. Go check that out if you want, at Heat Ratio Sports. Also subscribe to this YouTube channel right here that you're seeing this. If you're watching it, give us a subscription. We have a lot of great shows, but most importantly, subscribe at Fox PHL Gambler. We are doing tremendous things. It's a Philly-based radio station, but all we do is we go inside the numbers. That Sean Brace, the founder, he always says, if you can wager on it, we're talking about it. I think we do a great mix-up between relevant news stories and going inside the numbers. We have people on that you won't hear on everyday radio, people that will break down the games, what you want to hear. Listen, I love Carson Wentz talk. I do. I'm a Philadelphia Eagle fan. Obviously, you see behind me. I like talking football, but sometimes it's tired. Sometimes it gets old. So every now and then, you have to flip the script a little bit, right? So flipping the script means let's turn off the game to some bets and let's turn off to some numbers. And that's what we do here at The Gambler. So if you look at okay, we're going to get back to the Vucevic talk and the Giannis talk. So that's $2,000. So I want to give you an idea, and I do this every episode because I think a lot of people in our industry, whether it be gambling or fantasy or DFS, whatever you want to call it, I think a lot of people just throw numbers out there. And I don't think they look inside the numbers, and they don't give enough theory as to why they pick the way they do. One thing I will do consistently is show you guys, help you guys understand what my logic of thinking is. Last night, give you a perfect example. For Sixers games, I like to play the showdown. I like to do it because I think what happens is when you play the showdown and stick to that one game, I think it takes a lot of skill to be able to hit on them. And again, only a couple dollars here or there. I had Tyrese Maxey as one of my low level studs for me. And he was $2,200. I thought, you know what, for 2,200, he's going to give me double digit points. He could exceed 20 because I thought the pace of the game with guys like Chris Paul and Devin Booker would point towards Matisse Thybulle getting less minutes because he's more of a defensive and slow-minded player, and Tyrese Maxey is that guy to give you that energetic push. And I thought, you know what, he could go coast to coast at any time, so maybe Doc will give him some more clock. It didn't wind up like that, but it's okay. I gave you a theory, the premise behind why I took him, and it just didn't work out. But if it did for 2,200, it's high risk. I mean, it's low risk, high reward. So you don't really fret on that, right? You don't fret on that at all. So that's one thing I want to say. I want to give you guys as much logic as I can, for the specific reason of why I pick what I do. Now, the last minute scratches is one thing I want to get into as well before we get into the DFS week ahead. If you see on the left-hand side of the page here, it's kind of like my agenda. It's kind of like what I was thinking about doing. I think of things on the fly. Obviously, when the comments come in, we start talking about other things. I also know it's Sunday morning. Right? Not everybody's up on a Sunday morning. Not everybody's watching. That's okay. That's why it is recorded, people. This is live. Get in the conversation live. But again, you find it on YouTube. Watch it later. Listen to it. Throw a little comment in there. Hit that subscribe button, and we're good to go. Always active on Twitter at Cutillo23. You see it on the bottom right there. You can check all my guys out at Heat Ratio Sports doing a lot of good things, different shows. You could also check the number one spot, which we're brought to you by this morning, is at Fox PHL Gambler. So check Fox Sports The Gambler. They are doing tremendous things down there. I can't say it enough. And again, see this fancy fix right here, Monday to Friday. You can hear me every Monday to Friday at about 3:50-ish, like Sean likes to say. I do a vignette, and basically what it is I'm going to give you 3 to 4 picks for that the preceding evening. Again, it's early, but it's not too early. I'm giving you these picks at 4 o'clock. You have 3 hours to change your mind, to look at injuries, which we're going to get to in a minute. So it's okay. It's good enough to where it gives you time to tinker, but check it out. 90 seconds, I can tell you what, is the most informative 90 seconds in fantasy sports. Trust me. On Tuesdays, we do a little final judgment where we go longer, about 20 minutes, talk about all things, which is great. So let's talk about the last minute scratch. COVID is killing the last minute scratch for NBA fantasy. It really is. I got burnt specifically by guys like De'Aaron Fox, Isaiah Roby, guys that at the last minute, Tyler Hero, at the last minute, they're 5 minutes before game time, they're out, not because they got hurt in warmups, because of the COVID protocol. We've seen Kevin Durant, in order to play, then get taken off the bench mid-game, right? So, and I understand that the sports books are making adjustments to that, and they're voiding out your bets, and they're kind of recalculating your parlays. They're giving your money back if you have only one bet specifically. But for a fantasy purpose, it's really hard to come back from that, right? It's bad enough when you get the snowflake, right? Nobody wants the snowflake. That's the thing. There's nothing worse than turning on your lineup and seeing a bunch of snowflakes, right? But at the end of the day, what it means is you just have to go and be more productive with your time closer to tip-off than usual. So what I suggest, get a site that you like. And again, I'll be honest with you. I used to go, I think, I don't have enough time to do injury updates, right? None of us do. That's why we look at the big dogs. I'll be honest with you, right? Roto World to me was always the person I looked to. Now it's called NBC Sports Edge. We'll see if they're the same thing. I really like, there's a couple sites out there. RotoWire is really good. Awesemo does a really good job. Sportsline, one of the guys that runs one of our DFS leagues, Mike Barner, does a tremendous job for awesemo.com. I follow him a lot. He gives some really, really good, up to the minute updates, and that helps me. So I was able, you're able to take something out. So one of the reasons why it's important is because not only for you to get a zero that you don't want, but you may be able to move some players around. A couple weeks ago, there was a scenario where I was starting Chris Paul. and Chris Paul was $9,300, and I was starting him because I thought, you know what, even though Chris Paul is not a scoring machine like he used to be, he still likes to dish out the rock. He loves dishing out the dimes. Right, that's one thing about Chris Paul that you're always going to get. So he had a good matchup. I forget who was playing. Like I said, it was a couple weeks ago. So I had him in there, and then about maybe 20 minutes for game time, it comes out Chris Paul inactive, not playing. Right away, I go to the lineup, take him out, and I put in Devin Booker. $7,400. Tremendous value. Again, remember, I've said this on past episodes. The numbers do not change. The numbers do not change. Remember that. So what I mean by that is, again, if you have a player that goes out, you look at the guys that will basically come in, get more money, get more points, and give you more production based on low money, because the books do not go in and change. DraftKings doesn't go in and change that number. So Devin Booker was absolutely a steal at 7,400 because he was the only guard that was starting for the Phoenix Suns. That's important. You have to look at those matchups. And what did he do? Gave me 60 points, people. Okay, so that is absolutely where you want to be, right? That is absolutely where you want to be. So another thing I want to talk about, excuse me, is today's slate. You know what? Actually, let's get into DFS tiers, right? Joe checking in last few games, same game parlay, I missed by one. Was 9 out of 10 last night, and Simmons missed the 6 assists. Seriously, a point guard not getting 6 assists. Joe, I lost. Ready? I lost my parlay with Devin Booker the other night. All I needed was him to get under 4.5 rebounds, and he got 5. I thought fading at 5.5 for the alternate point total for rebounds, but I didn't. I should have. I missed it by 0.5. Like, why is Devin Booker getting 5 rebounds? And here's another funny thing, Joe. So I won the parlay the other night. I had Zion. It was the Pelicans and the Mavericks. So it was when Zion and Luka were going back and forth. I was screaming at the TV because Luka, I had everything. And Luka, I think his number was, it might have been 7 for rebounds. I think it was the under for Luka it was like 6 or 7. For the hell of it, we'll say it was 7. So he had 6, right? So I'm thinking, I got this in the back. But there was like 4 minutes left. They were up by like 20. And I'm like, why is Luka still in the game? Get him out. Get Luka out of the game. Please get him out. And finally, I was sweating it out, and I got it. So, yeah, man, missing the parlays by 1 is killer. Well, here's the thing, Joe. Let's hit today because we have 9 games today. So we got to be able to get some parlays in today, right? We listen. And the other thing, we got to be in, I don't know if you guys play tiers. So one of my co-hosts, one of my co-hosts, because we have many of them at Heat Ratio Sports, especially on the Fantasy Firebox, John Coker, who has been on sabbatical for a little bit, will be back. But Dan Green, opened me up to the whole DFS tier play. I never played a DFS tier contest. I'll be honest with you. Always played the typical 50,000, traditional, classic DFS matchups. Never did the tiers, and I'll tell you what, I absolutely love the tiers. If you do not do tiers, do it. Try it. It's fantastic. It's almost, what's nice about it is you don't have to go searching. So you do all your research. Guys that you have in your head, matchups that you have. You go into tiers, and it already it breaks it down into tiers. Okay, pick through these 5 guys. Pick out of these 5 guys. Pick out of these 5 guys. So, and it already basically divvies up that money into those high, mid, and low range plays, which is great. So I've really been liking the tiers. So if you haven't played the tiers, check them out. They're a really good contest. But let's get into this slate tonight because we got a ton of games. I figure my plan for this every week is 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. You get your coffee, pop on Periscope, pop on YouTube, get on Facebook, check me out. Listen, it is COVID. So studio time is tough to come by right now, which is why I'm glad I built the studio in my house right here. Okay. So I soundproofed everything. You see what I did behind me? It was for this specific purpose. So I love doing this. I love getting up, like I said, get my coffee and talking to you guys. So until further notice, this is going to be studio time, right? So every Sunday morning, check me out 9 a.m. I will be here and we'll be talking NBA and MLB, and then obviously football season, you know about that. But let's look at the slate tonight, 9 games, okay? 9 games tonight, which is great. There's nothing better for me than a Sunday 9-game slate. Now, again, if you're a golf guy, which I'm not a huge golf guy, right? But, listen, I'll be honest with you. I was loving Tiger Woods back in the day, and I did get on it, but our boy Chris is using off the tee matchups. Check them out for the station at Fox Sports The Gambler. Does tremendous things. Chris Ebom, right? At Chris Ebom on Twitter. He always has the good picks for the matchups. Again, Swing It and Ding It. Another group, they were just on NBC Sports with Harry Mays and Moose. These guys do a tremendous job for the station. So if you like golf, check them out. I'm not a golf guy. I'll stick to baseball, basketball, and football. I can't do hockey either. Hate to say it, but I can't. But so let's get into this slate tonight. Right away, we're gonna break this down. Let's. Here's what I want to do too. My plan is let's build a matchup together and play it. Okay, that's and again, this is early. And I want to preface this by saying it is early. First game doesn't tip until 7, so a lot of things can change. But for the sake of argument, we're just going to go with what we have, and we can always go back and change. Let's be transparent, too. So I would love, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do on this. So I know you guys are like, I got a lot of people watching right now. You may not be throwing up the comments, but that's okay. But this is what I want to do. Let's build a lineup together. We're going to go into why we have who we have where, what the thought process is, because I'm not just sticking things up against a wall. I'm trying to give you some analysis as well. Okay. And then throughout the course of the day, let's be transparent with each other. Joe, I know you're on Twitter all the time. We talk, a bunch. So if you see something, let me know. Tell me what you're thinking. I will do the same thing. We'll throw that lineup up there and we'll see if we can all cash in. We'll see how we can do. Tinker with it throughout the day. I want to get a really nice thread going for DFS because there's so many of us to play. And again, this isn't just for the props and the parlays because I want to hear about that too. I do the same thing, but specifically for daily fantasy, let's put a lineup in every day. Let's play it together and see what happens. Because listen, there's a lot of brilliant minds out there. I'll be honest with you. That could teach me a lot. And I would hope to be able to teach other people as well. So let's kind of pay it forward, so to speak, with all of us, right? Andre checking it says 9 games will make it awesome. Andre, absolutely, 100%. 9 games on a Sunday. 9 games on a Sunday. That is what is tremendous. I absolutely love it. So let's start off right. The first game of tips is San Antonio and Charlotte. Now, I'm trying to think. I think what I'm going to do, let me just go to the games, right? We'll talk about who's playing tonight. We'll just go over, hey, who we're looking at, and then we'll build a lineup. So right away, you have San Antonio and you have Charlotte. So you have some interesting names, okay? You really do. Let's start right off the guard positions. LaMelo Ball for Charlotte has just been extraordinary, right? He's just been extraordinary. The only thing that scares about LaMelo Ball is he's going to have games where he's not as extraordinary, and you're going to pay up for LaMelo Ball. You really are. Right now he's approaching 9,000. You have to be very careful that you don't get hurt with that number. Okay, simple as that. Always look at that number. You're talking about a kid who came in the league, right? Who's talking at $5,500, who's consistently going up in value. Right now, you're at 8,700. Just be careful. Now he has had a great 4 games, but here's the thing: last game 46. Before that 34, before that 50, and then 38. So you see the inconsistency right there. So you're getting up in that 9,000 territory. And just a week ago, Steph Curry was talking from 93 to 9,400, which means you were getting a consistent carry for that money. And I wouldn't pay up for inconsistent LaMelo Ball for a couple $100 less in order to try to get that same production. So that's what I'm looking at. I like LaMelo's game. He's going to be probably the best ball out of them all. So LeVar was right. Big money ballers. Good for you. Listen, the dude was a hype guy, but he was for real, right? He was absolutely for real. So he knew what he was talking about. He was not selling his son short. So that's one of the things I want to look at right there. So you have to be careful when we talk about looking at it from a whole and saying what are the numbers giving you? Okay. So let's look again, Terry Rozier at 7,400 for Charlotte. Another good guard. But at 7,400 and DeJounte Murray at 7,000. These are good values. These are things that you have to look at because you just heard LaMelo Ball numbers. And if you look at DeJounte Murray and you see what he's been able to do, okay, he gave you a 62-point game against Golden State. He gave you 34 last game against Atlanta, and he's 7,000. So again, 8,700 or 7,000, $1,700 less. That's what the numbers are telling you. So I like DeJounte Murray. He's starting to fill up the stat sheet. He's becoming a stat stuffer for the San Antonio Spurs, and they've been looking at guys to help DeMar DeRozan be that other scoring secondary option. So I think Murray with LaMarcus Aldridge being out. The looks have been going around the guards a little more than internally. So, Alani Walker does some damage, but DeJounte Murray is one of the guys that I think you should look at. He gives you 25 plus minutes and he gives you really good production. But his number is getting a little high again. So just be very weary of that number. That's all I have to say. Be very, very weary of that number. Andre says Ball will always give you the assist, but Steph will be consistent. Steph isn't GameStop. I love how Andre plays it, man. 100%. That's the thing. Steph will always be consistent. If you're going to pay $10,000, you have to pay for consistency. You don't want the snowflakes, right? You don't want the snowflakes. So, yeah, that's one thing you have to look at. Now, I'll tell you what, when I look at this, entire slate, just going by the guards, I'll tell you the first thing, I always look at guys that stand out to me. And as we go through this, I'm just going to throw a guy into our lineup. Not saying that we're going to start him, but just for the simple fact that I want to keep those values over there. So I'm looking at Devontae Graham. So he was injured for about a week. He comes back on Friday night. He doesn't set the world on fire. He only plays 27 minutes. He only scores 15. So I know his number is going to be much greater. He's going to get back up to 35, 40 minutes a game. And I think this is the game for him to do it. They eased him back in. He only scored 8 actual points, only 15 fantasy points. So his number dropped from 63 to 6,100. For me tonight, Devontae Graham is a very good value play. I already like him or what he's doing at that number. So I'm just going to throw him in there. Just as a value guy, let's throw him in there. Okay. Another guy that we talked about earlier in this show in previous weeks was Malik Monk. Malik Monk was doing really good things, but the reason why, again, Malik Monk was doing good things is because Devontae Graham was out. So now Devontae Graham is back. I do not look for Malik Monk to play more than 15 to 18 minutes a game, which is going to hurt his production, which is, unless you're giving a filler guy late for like 3,000, I don't think it's going to make a difference. So I'm really not looking at Malik Monk as being the guy we thought he was going to be, or looking at the guy he was when Graham was out, now that Graham is back. So I think we just disregard Malik Monk for right now, unless you need a stat stuffer. Again, now we look at the forward position of this game. You're looking at DeMar DeRozan, obviously. You're looking at Gordon Hayward. Hayward's an interesting story here. His numbers all over the place. It really is, because he's very inconsistent. He goes off one game, comes back down in reality the next. So, I stay away from Gordon Hayward only because I feel like I'm chasing him and his value all the time. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to chase value. I don't want to do that. So Gordon Hayward, for me specifically, I'm not chasing the value of Gordon Hayward. Now, depending on the matchup, he may be a guy that actually is primed to give you pretty good production, but you have to make sure that you hit the nail on the head with this guy, because you are going to pay $8,000. So $8,000 is a big number. I told you, you don't come back from $8,000 snowflakes, people. Let's just remember that. You do not come back from $8,000. $8,000 snowflakes. I can't say it enough. What you have to do for those $8,000 snowflakes is you have to make sure that you don't get them, and it doesn't snow. It's as simple as that. It sounds cliche, but it's so true. All right, let's go back into these lines again. We have to look going further here. Flip my screen around here. So let's do this. I feel like we're going to go through every single game. It's going to get long when it's going to get stagnant. So let's just go as a whole. Let's just build this lineup, okay? So let's look first at, we picked the two games that's going to have a ton of points. I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at Portland, Dallas right away. Portland, Dallas, you get Dame time versus Luka. How much better can you get? Honestly, how much better can you get than Dame versus Luka? So that's the one thing I'm looking at right there. Luka is an absolute beast, man. Luka's up to 11-1. He is, but Luka just gave you 80 points, okay? In the last 4 games, he's giving you 1 of 70 and 1 of 80 and 1 of 65. It's huge numbers, but here's the problem, man. If you're going to pay 11-1 and against Minnesota, which is a letdown game, he only gives you 42. It sounds crazy, 42. And again, these are fantasy points that we're talking about. He only gives you 42. That's bad. So if you're paying 11-1, 42 is not good. That's like, your $5,000 player giving you 12. It's not good. It's not good. It's not what you need. You need more than that. You need more production. So you need to be very careful, but that's going to be a game I look at full out points. Full out points for that game, Luka Doncic and Damian Lillard. Now, here's the funny thing. This is where you can get creative, okay? This is where you can get creative because Dame Lillard is 9,600. And Dame Lillard can every bit put up the same kind of production as Luka Doncic. Now, I don't think Dame Lillard's going to get you to 80-point games, but for 9,600, I think he can give you the 60s. And if you can hit Dame on a 58 to 60 point total at 9,600, that's going to open you up with that extra $1,500 to give you a better play at another position. So let's keep that in mind. So let's, for the sake of argument right now, because I really think that's going to be one of the high scoring games, I'm going to put Damian Lillard in there. I'm going to take Lillard over Luka. Just, again, going up against Dallas, there's not going to be much defense play in that game. You see what happened with Steph versus Luka the other night. Zion versus Luka. Those guys, they went to battle. Steph versus Luka before they went to battle. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be Dame versus Luka. And I think they're both going to give you really good production. I would just rather pay down the $1,500 because I think I'm going to want to add that in later and not get stuck with a $3,000 value. I could actually get a utility guy at maybe $4,500 now, based on that number. Andre says, yeah, Luka is a DFS dream, but boy, he's expensive. That's a problem, Andre, 100%. He is overly expensive. I love him, I do, but I just have a hard time paying $11,000 for guys because it really hinders your lineup going forward. So I'm going to put Dame in there. Let's go to the shooting guard. And right off the bat, another high-scoring game that I'm looking at is going to be Orlando-Phoenix. Another game where you're going to get some really good sharpshooters. And I don't know if there's a hotter guy right now than Devin Booker. You remember when Phoenix started, and it was all about Chris Paul is hurting the value of Devin Booker because Chris Paul was garnering more attention in the offense. But they were learning how to play together. That was the thing. And now Chris Paul has done nothing but open up avenues for Devin Booker to be the guy and be explosive, be the player we knew he was. The way he was shooting threes the other night, he's getting back to the Devin Booker of old. So right now, in my opinion, you ride the hot hand. So I am going 100% with Devin Booker tonight. He's $8,200, but going up against Orlando, I think that is a money spot for Devin Booker. So right off the bat, we're going to start off with Lillard and Booker. Again, we may have to tinker at the end, but that's okay. This is what I'm looking at. So we're going to go to the small forward position. And the number one guy is LeBron. He's questionable like he is every game 10-2. He's another guy I would absolutely pay off for. But I want to watch my money because I already have a $9,600 guy, already have $8,200 in Booker. So I'm looking and I'm scouring and I'm saying, okay, is there a guy in that $8,000 to $7,000 range, and I'm going to tell you who he is. That man is none other than Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton, for me, is such a solid, consistent play for Milwaukee and for your team. He really is. Listen, I understand he only had 26 the other night. I get it. Giannis took over, but he was 8,000, so he really hurt you. He did. But before that, he gives you 45. He gives you 63 before that. Then he drops down to 30. A weird game. He only played 29 minutes. Again, there are certain games you have to say, but he is very consistent on that Bucks team. And usually when Giannis has such a tremendous performance, he always kind of takes a back seat a little bit for the following game on a back-to-back performance of like 60 or 70 points, and I'm talking fantasy points, obviously. So I like Middleton in this game against OKC. I do. OKC still hurting. COVID has still hurt OKC. They still don't have their 100% lineup together. They're still learning. They're still young. So I'm looking at a lot of points scored in this game, and I'm liking Middleton to go for at least 40 plus in this game. I am. I really think that that is definitely in his repertoire tonight. And again, this is a guy who can give you 50 at any given night, and he's 7,800. So for me, I'm going Chris Middleton. I like him. I think he's consistent. He gives you the sure shot. No disrespect to the Beastie Boys, but you like that because I'm a hip hop guy. But I definitely like Middleton for our lineup tonight. So let's look where we're going. Go to power forward position again. You see right away, Giannis is almost 11,000 again. He was tremendous, but for the sake of our lineup, I'm not going to pay out for Giannis. I'm not. So you can only get so many $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 guys. So I try to get a big four. So let me look and see, is my big four going to be, so right now, the first three of our big four is Lillard, Booker, and Middleton. So do I want my big four to be a power forward or a center? So let's see, because I'm already looking at the Zion value, 8,100, and the DeMar DeRozan value at 8,000. So I already have that in my mind, and there's a Jeremy Grant value down there at 7,400 that it's really, really juicy to me. So let me see what's in the center position right now. And again, the center position is loaded up the top, big time players. But here's two underrated guys down the bottom at center. Actually, three. I'm going to give you three. Okay, and they are Valanciunas, Canner, and Ayton. Those three guys are very underrated. They are. Valanciunas, when he's healthy, he's been in and out of the lineup, but when he's healthy and when he's playing 30-plus minutes, he's giving you 40, 45, and 50. He's a very, very, very good center for DFS purposes. They go up against Sacramento. No defense getting play on Sacramento. Rashard Holmes is not scaring anybody. Sorry. He's a good bench player. He's not a starter. He's not scaring anybody. That game is going to be run and gun. It's going to be a lot of no defense play, a lot of fast pace. Buddy Hield's a good play in that game. So I like for Sacramento, even Harrison Barnes is probably a decent play. We'll see if De'Aaron Fox plays tonight. Halliburton's a good play. A lot of good guys for Sacramento, but I think Valanciunas is definitely the Memphis guy that you want to play at 7,400. So let me see what DeAndre Ayton's value is, because I like him as well. And that's another game that we talked about, high scoring points. Okay. So DeAndre Ayton, 7,100, he kind of crapped the bed a little bit against Philly. But again, he played against Joel Embiid. So what do you expect, people, right? So his last two games, he's kind of fading, right? He was 35, 45, so they went 25, 11. But when I look at his rebound numbers, because DeAndre Ayton is not going to give you 20 points per game. He's going to give you like 13 or 14. But where he's going to make his money is his rebounds. He needs to give you double-digit rebounds in order to be a very good value at 7,000. So against Cleveland and Boston, he hit double digits. He was 12 and 16. But he's starting to fade 7-6. So you hear better say we're going to fade this pick. I'm going to say for DFS, I'm going to fade out DeAndre Ayton in this game. I'm not going to touch DeAndre Ayton because I feel like he's trending in the wrong direction for me and for our lineup. So let's go back to the lineup and let's look at this center position. For sake of argument, I'm going to put in Valanciunas. I really like Valanciunas for 7,400. I think he's a really, really good value. Now, we have $17,000 left, and we have four players we have to fill. So let's, right off the bat, let's look at our forward position. And let's see, go down the list and look at our games. I think Portland and Dallas is going to have a lot of points scored in that game. New Orleans and Detroit, I think, is going to be a decent scoring output game. Minnesota, Toronto, that has bust potential. Be careful. Minnesota is really bad. So guys like Kyle Lowry and Van Fleet, or Van Vliet and Pascal Siakam, be careful. That has the blowout potential in there. So you really want to make sure that you don't pay up for a guy who's only going to play 25 minutes and not be able to give you the production you're paying for. So just be careful because Minnesota is that bad. Orlando and Phoenix is a game that's going to have a lot of points, in my opinion. The Lakers and the Nuggets is a very intriguing game. I think that's the game where you can get some really good value. Guys like Pope in that game, Kuzma, even a low Alex Caruso, like towards the back end, could be a guy that you could really get some value with. So that right away, I look at Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle Kuzma's values be going up 6,400. I don't know, man. That's a little high for me. I don't know if I want to play that. That is a little high for me. He's really going to have to come through for that number. So I'm looking at this game as a Horton Tucker kind of game. I really am, and again, because I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and I feel like he only played 6 minutes last game. I think that was a mirage, so his value really dropped. It's fluctuated to he's back and forth, but he played at least 19 minutes up until that point. So he was giving you 21, 22, 24. So, I mean, we'll look at him. He's 3,900. He's a name you want to look at maybe in that game. We'll look at just from a utility perspective from the guards. I like Caldwell Pope. I think this could be a Caldwell Pope kind of game. 3,400 is a really good value. Again, I'm looking at guys, and I know he's only been single digits the last few games, but this is one of those games where certain guys are going to step up, right? Certain guys are going to step up because there's going to be a lot of run and gun. And I think Caldwell Pope could be that guy. So I like Caldwell Pope in this game. Another guy that we don't talk enough about could be Wesley Matthews. Now, Wesley Matthews, again, he's just starting to come on. He's double digits the last 3 games. Very interesting. Only 3,300. Wesley Matthews is starting to get his feet wet for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's starting to see the stroke. I mean, he didn't start out too well. We all know, he's not coming back to the starting lineup. But again, he was coming off 4 straight. This is straight from DraftKings. Coming off straight, do not play designations, but he bounced back in a big way Monday and contributed with a few key shots come off the bench. He's not expected in the starting line anytime soon, with him receiving do not play tags in 7 of the last 15 appearances. He shouldn't be trusted in all fantasy formats until he finds a way to get minutes consistently. Now, that was on the 9th. Okay, this is why it's important. I read it to you for a reason. That was on the 9th. Okay, because that was his first game where he got 26 minutes. The following game, he got 30 minutes. The following game today, he got 23 minutes. He's starting to get the clock. But he only had 3 points against Memphis. So, again, keep an eye on him. 3,300, and it's early too. So you never know what his designation is going to be down the line for future lineups. If you join watching with us, hit that share button. This is my man Andre. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, my man. Can't wait for to break down the Sixers tonight. Half court heat. It's going to be some fun stuff, man. Me, you, and Al. So I got a good show planned as always. In the middle of an ice storm, we're going to get. We have a lot of basketball to talk. 9 games on the slate, so we can get into some basketball talk with those 9 games after we break down the Sixers too. So that should be fun. So we're gonna get back to this lineup, and let's look at who we're gonna get to the power forward position. Okay, let's finish this up. I figure we go about an hour, 48 minutes there. I want to get a lineup up that we can all like and we can all pick apart throughout the day. So let's, for the sake of purposes, listen, I mentioned I'm going to see what we could do if we throw a Jeremy Grant in there. And again, this is big money. This is something I've never done. So let's see. Right now, we got a big 5. We got Valanciunas, we got Grant, we got Middleton, Booker, and Lillard. We only have $10,000 left for 3 players. So there's some $3,000 players right there that we're going to have to look at. So let's see if we can hit on any of them. Okay? So look down at man. These are some bargain basement picks here, right? There's some bargain basement picks. Now, I will tell you is you have John Kocher, and he's played double-digit minutes at 13, 10 for 3,200 at a game against Sacramento. That I think in a late game is going to have some points. He could be a guy to look at. He really could. He's a guy, he gets a lot of rebounds and he gets some garbage points. He's not going to throw the three up. We're not looking at him to throw the three, but if he gets a couple garbage rebounds, a couple garbage points, and he can give you 6 to 7 rebounds and maybe a block or two, he's double-digit points for under $3,000 or under 3,200. So I actually like that pick. So I'm going to throw him in there right now. We'll tinker, but I really like that pick. Now, another guy, we talked about this game having some really good potential. Excuse me. As far as scoring, Isaac Okoro for Cleveland and the Clippers, that very well could be a blowout for the Clippers, but guys like Sexton are going to play in that game, are going to be productive. Okoro has still been, even though he's only 3,200, he's giving you at least 6 points, but he's also giving you a couple double-digit money makers, right? If you look at, he's playing 20-plus minutes, actually 25-plus minutes. That's a big deal. So Isaac Okoro, as he's still learning, he's not going to give you another bad performance where he had 0 real-life points. It translates to 6 fantasy points. But I could see him getting double-digit points tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. So I'm going to go throw him in there too and see how this looks right off the bat. So now we have one more spot. I don't know if we're, here's the thing. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this in because I look at this and I'm like, okay, do I really want 3 low-budget kind of players? I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure if I want that. All right. I mean, there's a couple guys we could look at, but I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. I don't. So let's do this. Let's do this, and this is how we tinker. Okay, I'm going to keep Contra and a Okoro in there. Okay, so let's take out Jeremy Grant at the power forward position. He was 7,400. Let's see if we can get anybody that maybe in the $6,000 range that can maybe give us some really good production. Maybe a Michael Porter Jr., maybe a Baisley. We look at those guys. I'm not going to ride the Carmelo Anthony train right now because I don't know how long that's going to last. He has to get hot at the right time. But Kenrich Williams is a really interesting name to look at. The last 2 games, he's really come on. But the last 4 games, he's still 25, 25, 39, 35. So, I think it's a good spot for 5,400 for Kenrich Williams. I do. So if you take Kenrich Williams and put it in there at 5,400, and now you have $5,200 left for your utility spot. So now we go in there, and now we're looking at guys, looking at maybe, Paul Millsap. I don't know. I'm going to fade a little bit away from Millsap, but Derek White's an interesting pick to me. He's starting to come off on the Spurs. I don't know if I'm ready to pay that number yet, but I think he has a really good number. One guy I want you to look at is Frank Kaminsky. Okay, we talked about this name. Now he only had 6 points against Philly, but before that game was a little weird. He only played 11 minutes. Okay, but before that he played 35 minutes against Milwaukee. Then he played 29 minutes against Cleveland. Okay, so he was getting the clock. And when he gets 20 minutes or more, he's getting 20 points or more. So now he's a little high at 5,000, so I don't know if I would pay for him. Okay, but it's a name that you definitely want to look at. Jalen Brunson is another name that you want to look at. Another guy who's been really playing well as of late. He's getting more clock, and that is a game. Right there, that Portland-Dallas game, a lot of points. So I'm going to tell you what, we're gonna call it audible right here. And I'm going to throw Jalen Brunson in our lineup. I really like Brunson. I want at least 2 players in that Portland-Dallas game. And, give me, I know I can't get Luka, but you give me Jalen on one side and you give me Lil on the other side. I'm feeling pretty good. I like that. I do like that. And again, that's the way I'm formulating my picks. So let's run this down. We have $300 left. Now, with that $300, let's take Contra out. That gives us $3,500 and see if we can get another guy in there who maybe can give us, a little more production, a little more opportunity to get production. I tell you what, one guy sticks out for me is Rodney Hood. Another game, another guy in that Portland and Dallas game. He could do some decent things. Now he's very inconsistent, but just a guy 3,500 that you want to look at. Maybe be able to give you decent production. Another guy is Terrence Mann. How many minutes is he going to play? He played 33 minutes last game. The game for that 20, game for that 26. It's inconsistent, but he's still getting double-digit points. And this is against Cleveland. So I like this spot tonight. I do. His last 3 games, 13, 21, 15, and 20. For 3,500, this could be a 25-point night for Terrence Mann. So I like Terrence Mann tonight. So, all right, this is the lineup we're looking at right here. Okay, we're looking at Damian Lillard for 9,600. We're looking at Devin Booker for 8,200. We're looking at Chris Middleton. We're looking at Kenrich Williams. We're looking at Valanciunas. We're looking at Terrence Mann, Isaac Okoro, and Jalen Brunson. With Mann and Okoro being our low-budget find. So you want your top-tier players, okay? And for me, our top-tier players are obviously Lillard and Booker. Then you want and Middleton, honestly. I think Middleton's your top. He very well could be an $8,000 value guy. So he's 7,800 tonight, but he could be 8,000 easily. So let's put those 3 guys in our top tier. You have Dillard, Booker, and Middleton. And then we're going to go mid-tier, which is Valanciunas, very, very good mid-tier player, and Kenrich Williams, who's really starting to turn it up, and Jalen Brunson. Okay, for me, mid-tier fine. And then we're going to go our low-tier, low-value budget players in Terrence Mann and Isaac Okoro. So those 2 guys, 32, 3,500, respectively, double-digit points. As long as you don't get any snowflakes, man, this is a really, really good lineup. I like it. I like the way it's formulated. I think we can really make some headway. So again, you're listening in back on replay. We will post this lineup up, show you where we're starting, what we're looking at. Again, we also have to put in perspective. You want to get some guys that are low percentage start guys too. You don't want to be starting what everybody else is starting. So again, anybody can go to the DraftKings articles and RotoWire and say, oh, you know what? They say this guy's a stud start. Follow your own lead, man. Follow your own lead. That's one word of advice. I like doing that. I like to put my own spin on things. I like to have my own analysis and my own perspectives. So that's why my lineups look a little different than others. Now, again, I don't hit every night, obviously. None of us always do it. And if you do, that's awesome. I mean, that's great. I will follow your lead. But what I like to do is I like to switch up different formulas for low values to try to say, you know what? Let me see what happens when, we put different guys in different scenarios and use different logic and see how the points are based. So again, I will post this lineup up. Tell me how you tinker. Look at your injuries. First game is until 7:30, so you have plenty of time. 9-game slate. It's going to be fun. 100%. Is it 9 or 7:30 or 7? I'm sorry, 7 o'clock. You're tipping off San Antonio, Charlotte, Minnesota, Toronto, New Orleans, Detroit. Some really good firepower matchups. Watch that blowout potential. Minnesota, Toronto. That's going to be a tough one. I think New Orleans, Detroit. Some really good points scored. So you get guys like Jeremy Grant and Zion. Will be really good, and Brandon Ingram are going to be really good finds. And see if Saddiq Bey can come back. See if Isaiah Stewart can have a bounce back game. Saddiq Bey went off against Boston. Let's see if he can do the same thing. We'll find out. But anyhow, thanks everybody for joining in. This is called the DFS Blend. It's called my man Rich checking in at the end. It's called gambling, not winning at all. As always, Rich, thanks for checking in. It's just getting done here. This is called the DFS Blend. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo at TCutillo23. Again, thanks for joining us. Follow us at Fox PHL Gambler. You'll hear me every day. Follow all your DFS needs, all the supreme talent at Fox Sports The Gambler, at Fox PHL Gambler. Check us out. And as always, Heat Ratio Sports, doing big things. A lot of good personalities, a lot of good content on the YouTube page. Hit subscribe. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and let's cash in tonight.